Right now, inside Halas Hall, a fan favorite veteran who has given years to Chicago is sitting down for a meeting he doesn't know is coming. And by the end of this video, his Bears career is over. Ryan Poles isn't just trimming the roster for week 1. He's executing a cold-blooded purge to hand starting spots to unheralded rookies. Here are the shocking veteran cuts nobody sees coming and the cold financial math behind why it's happening. August in the National Football League is often marketed through a lens of hope, optimism, and the pristine promise of a fresh record. Cameras capture sun-drenched practice fields, helmet decals catching the morning light, and players high-fiving fans along the fence line. But step inside the long corridors of Halas Hall during the final week of the preseason, and the atmosphere shifts entirely. The air grows thick with a quiet, uncomfortable tension. The smiles become a little more forced, the laughter in the cafeteria a little more subdued. The NFL is, at its core, a relentless machine that chews through human inventory with cold efficiency, and Cut Day is the annual reminder of that unsentimental truth. For years, Chicago Bears fans were accustomed to a specific kind of late August roster construction. The team lacked true depth, meaning the back end of the roster was populated by familiar, reliable placeholders, veterans who knew the system, provided decent locker room leadership, and offered a comfortable sense of predictability. If you were a vested veteran with a couple of solid seasons under your belt, your spot on the 53 was virtually guaranteed. You knew the routine, you knew the city, and your locker was secure. That comfortable paradigm has completely evaporated under the current regime. The modern Chicago Bears are no longer operating from a position of desperation or talent scarcity. Through meticulous draft accumulation and aggressive talent scouting, General Manager Ryan Poles has quietly built genuine competitive depth across nearly every position group. On paper, depth is a glowing badge of honor for a franchise aiming for a deep playoff run. But inside the locker room, depth is a direct threat to survival. It means that the margin for error has shrunk to zero. It means that age, contract size, and past contributions are no longer protective shields against a younger, faster, and significantly cheaper alternative. Every practice rep, every preseason snap, and every assignment in special teams coverage is now evaluated with mathematical precision. The sheer mechanics of cut day are brutal. Coaches sit in film rooms late into the night, staring at glowing monitors, breaking down tape frame by frame. They aren't looking at the superstar starters who have already secured their roles. They are obsessing over the bottom 15 spots on the depth chart. They watch how a backup offensive lineman anchors against a bull rush in the fourth quarter of a meaningless exhibition game. They evaluate whether a special teams coverage player missed a lane by 2 yards or showed a second of hesitation on a kickoff return. While players attempt to rest in their hotel rooms, waiting for their phones to ring, the front office is busy balancing athletic upside against hard salary cap figures. This year, the chopping block at Halas Hall is heavier and sharper than it has been in over a decade. The roster expansion is forcing impossible decisions, and the casualties will not just be fringe practice squad players or roster bubble longshots. A fan favorite who has worn the navy and orange for years, a player who has given his body to this franchise through painful rebuilding seasons, is about to be handed a pink slip before week 1 even arrives. The fans who purchased his jersey, the teammates who lean on his voice in the huddle, and the media members who cover him daily will be caught completely off guard. But inside the war room, the decision has already been calculated. The cold business reality of the NFL dictates that affection does not win division titles. Loyalty to past performance is a fast track to mediocrity. When hungry, unheralded rookies step onto the field and demonstrate that they can replicate or exceed a veteran's production at a fraction of the cost, sentimentality dies instantly. The whistle blows on the practice field. The red cut-day graphics replace the hype reels, and the clock ticks down toward the league deadline. The Chicago Bears are making a statement, and the first sacrifice on the altar of progress is about to take place behind closed doors. While veterans cling to past achievements, the daily practice tape emerging from training camp tells an undeniable truth. The next generation has arrived, and they're moving at a completely different speed. Nothing accelerates a veteran's exit quite like a rookie making splash plays in broad daylight. And no two players have disrupted the status quo at Halas Hall quite like wide receiver Zavion Thomas and tight end Sam Roush. They're not merely competing for roster spots. They're actively reshaping how the Chicago Bears evaluate floor-level talent across their entire offense. Look no further than the electric surge provided by Zavion Thomas. Running a blazingly fast 4.28-second 40-yard dash, Thomas brings a tier of game-breaking velocity that instantly changes the calculus for opposing defensive coordinators and for Chicago's front office. In practice drills, his acceleration off the line of scrimmage forces defensive backs into deep cushion coverage, opening up easy shot completions that Thomas regularly transforms into explosive gains. But his real value proposition, the weapon that makes older depth receivers completely redundant, is his dynamic return ability. Under the modern kickoff rules, explosive return specialists who can process blocking lanes at full speed are premium assets. Thomas possesses a rare combination of lateral agility and sudden burst, making him a threat to score every time he touches the ball on special teams. For a veteran backup receiver whose contract carries a multi-million-dollar cap hit and whose special teams contributions are passive at best, watching a rookie effortlessly flip field position on a cheap rookie contract is a terrifying sight. Thomas renders the classic possession receiver backup obsolete because he offers true position flexibility and game-breaking athleticism at a fraction of the price. On the opposite end of the formation, tight end Sam Roush represents a completely different kind of nightmare for veteran bubble players. Standing 6'6" and weighing 267 pounds, the Stanford product brings a brand of physical blue-collar versatility that modern coaching staffs obsess over. In 11-on-11 team periods, Roush's impact is felt before the ball is even snapped. He possesses the functional strength and technical leverage to seal off edge rushers in heavy running sets, functioning essentially as a sixth offensive lineman. Yet, the moment defenses cheat inside to stop the run, Roush glides seamlessly into seam routes, utilizing his massive frame to seal off linebackers and convert crucial third downs. This dual threat capability directly exposes the limitations of older, one-dimensional tight ends. Historically, teams carried separate specialists, one blocking tight end for goal line situations and a receiving specialist for passing downs. Roush eliminates the need for that roster bloat. By mastering both skill sets, he allows the offense to run diverse concepts without making personnel substitutions, keeping defensive units trapped in bad matchups. When a single rookie can handle inline blocking against defensive ends while also operating as a reliable safety valve for the quarterback, paying a veteran salary for a one-dimensional backup becomes financially illogical. The emergence of Thomas and Roush underscores a broader structural shift in Chicago. These camp darlings are not just winning individual reps. They are providing the coaching staff with tactical flexibility while handing the front office enormous salary cap relief. Every time Thomas leaves a cornerback in the dust on a go route, or Roush violently drives a pass rusher off the line, the internal evaluation matrix ticks further away from the past and toward the future. The practice tape doesn't lie, and week after week, it is broadcasting a clear message to the rest of the locker room. Reputation will not save your job when superior talent is knocking on the door for a discount. The film room does not lie, and in late August, it becomes the most brutally honest room in North America. When the coaching staff locks the doors and dims the lights, reputation and past accolades dissolve into high-definition digital playback. On screen, the slow decay of veteran athletic profiles is laid bare in crisp detail. The camera catches the extra fraction of a second a veteran offensive tackle takes to set his anchor against an edge rusher, resulting in a collapsed pocket. It captures a seasoned linebacker over-pursuing a zone stretch play, his hips turning half a second too slow to recover before the running back cuts back through the gap. In isolation, these mistakes might seem minor, the inevitable friction of August football. But when layered against hard salary cap figures, these tape delays become terminal. The mathematical reality of modern NFL roster construction leaves zero room for inflated contracts on the bottom half of the depth chart. A modern front office evaluates every player through a strict cost-to-production ratio. When starters command top-tier money, the reserves backing them up must offer ultra-lean financial overhead. Yet, roster bloat occurs when mid-tier veterans are handed multi-million-dollar deals to serve as insurance policies. On the backup offensive line, veteran tackles and interior swing guards collect heavy checks to provide what coaches describe as veteran stability. But when the preseason tape reveals that the stability is an illusion, when veteran guards are routinely beaten by rookie defensive tackles and swing tackles struggle to navigate simple stunt blitz packages, the contract transforms from a safety net into an anchor dragging down the team's cap flexibility. The exact same economic friction is tearing through the linebacker room and the bottom end of the wide receiver depth chart. For years, bottom-tier receivers survived on roster margins purely because they possessed foundational knowledge of the playbook. They knew where to line up, understood sight adjustments, and provided coaches with a comfortable baseline. But in today's NFL, baseline knowledge without explosive traits is a liability. Preseason game tape exposes these receivers instantly, failing to create separation on basic slant routes, dropping contested catches in heavy traffic, and offering minimal burst on punt coverage. When a front office looks at a veteran wideout counting millions against the cap who yields 0 yards after the catch and compares him to an undrafted or late-round rookie earning the league minimum while blowing past press coverage, the decision is already made. In the linebacker corps, the steady drop-off in snap counts tells the story long before a player is officially released. Throughout OTAs and early camp, coaching staffs quietly reallocate first and second team reps. A veteran linebacker who played heavy snaps a season ago suddenly finds himself rotated out during key 11-on-11 periods, relegated to late-game situational snaps with third-string reserves. His practice load drops off a cliff, and when he does enter preseason games in the second half, the decline in lateral agility is undeniable. The tape shows him being reached and sealed by titans, unable to shed blocks or trigger downhill against the run. Every missed tackle, every blown protection, and every failed route separation on preseason tape becomes an undeniable piece of evidence. The front office isn't just watching football plays, they are watching dollar figures burn on the monitor. A cap hit that made sense 2 years ago becomes completely indefensible when the tape proves the player can no longer execute the physical demands of the system. As deadline day looms, these veteran players continue to strap on their pads, walk through the facility corridors, and line up for practice, completely unaware that their fate was sealed the moment the front office paused the film, looked at the cap sheet, and realized they were paying premium money for declining production. The tape has rendered its verdict, and the cold ledger of the NFL is ready to balance the books. Inside the executive suites overlooking the practice fields at Halas Hall, the atmosphere is drastically different from the emotional, sweat-drenched environment of the gridiron. Here, General Manager Ryan Poles operates in a world governed by algorithms, salary cap projections, and cold financial forecasting. While head coaches naturally form emotional bonds with players who throw their bodies into two-a-day practice sessions, Poles maintains a sharp, deliberate distance. The modern NFL general manager cannot afford the luxury of sentimentality. In Poles' war room, a player is not defined by his popularity in the locker room, his years of service to the organization, or how warmly he greets the front office staff in the morning. Instead, a player is quantified as an athletic asset with a specific financial cost, a precise age curve, and a calculated projection of future value. Hall's roster building strategy relies heavily on a foundational principle that has swept through elite front offices, prioritizing raw athletic profiles and youth over high-priced veteran familiarity. When evaluating bottom-of-the-roster battles, Poles routinely leans on relative athletic score, a metric that measures an athlete's physical traits against historical combine data and cost-controlled contract length. If a 30-year-old veteran and a 22-year-old rookie produce comparable results during preseason action, the decision in Poles' spreadsheet is instantaneous. The rookie represents an ascending physical ceiling, years of age advantage, and a minimum salary cap hit. The veteran represents a descending athletic trajectory, an inflated cap number, and zero financial upside. In Poles' eyes, paying a premium for past production is the fastest path to salary cap purgatory. In corporate finance, companies divest from depreciating assets to reinvest in high-yield opportunities. Ryan Poles treats the Bears roster with the exact same corporate discipline. Every position group is audited down to the decimal point. If a backup offensive lineman or veteran linebacker absorbs a notable percentage of the team's secondary cap space while generating below-average efficiency metrics, that contract is classified as an inefficient asset. It does not matter if that player is a respected voice in the huddle or a media darling. In the cold light of Poles' analytical framework, inefficiency is a defect that must be excised before it limits the franchise's overarching flexibility. This ruthless mathematical approach was forged through years of observing how championship rosters are sustained over long windows. To build a perennial contender, a franchise must master the art of releasing a veteran 1 year too early rather than 1 year too late. Moving on from a beloved starter or a long-time core contributor before their physical decline becomes an obvious liability requires immense conviction. It invites public criticism, angers fan bases, and risks disturbing locker room dynamics in the short term. But Poles understands that the primary duty of a general manager is to protect the long-term health of the organization. Every dollar saved by cutting an overpaid backup is a dollar rolled over into future cap space, preserving the flexibility needed to extend elite young core players or aggressively pursue high-impact talent when a championship window opens wide. Inside the war room, trade value metrics flicker across high-definition monitors alongside complex cap space spreadsheets. While fans view cut day as a binary choice between keeping a player or dropping him to the waiver wire, Paul sees a multidimensional chessboard. In the days leading up to the final deadline, his phone rings constantly as he aggressively gauges the trade market across the league. If a veteran player is bound to be released in the 48-hour cut window, Pauls works tirelessly to extract even a conditional 7th-round draft pick or a minor late-round swap from a needy rival. To the outside observer, a conditional 7th-round pick might seem insignificant. To Ryan Poles, it represents another draft asset, another roll of the dice to acquire a cheap, athletic rookie who can reset the contract clock at a position of need. This unyielding focus on roster optimization creates a culture where no one can afford to get comfortable. Players quickly realize that historical loyalty offers zero protection under this regime. The message trickles down through the scouting department, into the coaching staff, and directly into the locker room. Athletic upside and financial efficiency are the supreme currencies at Halas Hall. Ryan Pauls is not constructing a football team to preserve nostalgia. He is engineering a cold, precise machine designed to dominate an unsentimental league. As the final hours tick down toward the deadline, Paul sits calmly reviewing the spreadsheets, ready to finalize the cuts that will redefine the Chicago Bears. As the final deadline approaches, the energy inside Halas Hall condenses into a high-stakes waiting game. The physical toll of summer practices gives way to an agonizing, quiet tension that hangs over every meeting room and hallway. Across the league, 90-man rosters must officially shrink to 53. And in Chicago, the digital display boards in the front office are constantly updating in real time. Names shift back and forth between columns labeled safe, trade candidate, and waiver wire. On the primary magnetic roster board, magnetic nameplates are unceremoniously lifted and slid across color-coded zones. For dozens of young men, those few inches of physical movement represent the difference between realizing a lifelong professional dream and watching their football career vanish in an instant. The final cuts will leave undeniable scars across the fanbase and the locker room. But the roster landscape in Chicago is being fundamentally redrawn. High-profile veterans who once anchored position groups now find themselves on the outside looking in, sacrificed to create room for younger, more explosive talent. On the offensive side of the ball, the explosive emerging presence of Zavion Thomas and Sam Roush renders several seasoned backups expendable, freeing up critical salary cap space that Ryan Pauls can weaponize down the stretch. On defense, declining veteran snap counts give way to leaner, faster, hyper-athletic rookies who fit the front office's long-term physical identity. Every decision finalized in these closing hours reflects a calculated pivot away from high-priced mediocrity and towards sustained, cost-controlled contention. Yet the end of the cut-down window is never truly the end of the process. Even as the final 53-man list is submitted to the league office, the war room remains at peak
He said that's Lightning McQueen.
Ryan Pauls and his scouting
Say
staff
something to the fans, man.
immediately shift their focus to the wire, scouring the waiver claim listings from 31 other franchises to identify overlooked gems or skim fits who are caught in similar numbers deals elsewhere. Conditional trades are finalized, practice squad invitations are extended, and the bottom 5 spots of the roster remain in a state of dynamic flux right up until the opening kickoff of Week 1. This brutal and sentimental cycle is the price of progress in the modern NFL. The Chicago Bears are no longer a rebuilding franchise content to harbor familiar names for comfort's sake. By embracing the cold reality of roster cuts, prioritizing elite athletic upside, and fearlessly cutting ties with decaying contracts, Ryan Pauls has established a baseline where survival must be earned every single day. The lockers have been cleared, the pink slips have been delivered, and the 53 men left standing represent something far greater than just a football roster. They are the blueprint of a franchise that has traded sentimentality for ambition, fully prepared to launch its next chapter on the national stage.